the stiff truth. Welcome to the Stiff Truth. I'm Bob West. I'm here with the one and only, the tremendous, the year older Scotty Casanova. How you doing, Scott?
Ooh, I like that. I thought you were going to keep it going there and just give me more and more accolades. I was feeling it. I was getting pumped up. But no, I'm doing good, buddy. I am doing good. I don't feel older, obviously.
Well, you look like a smacked ass. That helps.
Yeah, you look like fucking hell, Scotty. Doing well, man. Yeah, had the birthday this week. Our birthdays are pretty close together. I believe they're only 4 days apart or something like that. Yeah. 18th, 22nd. So, fantastic, man. Of course, got pampered. What did I have? Had my favorite breakfast that Jamie made me, which is real, legit, not the canned bullshit, but legit corned beef hash and eggs over easy eggs. Gorgeous. Had that corned beef in the slow cooker overnight, all night long. So it was just, oh God, it was phenomenal, nice. Buddy. Yeah. So started that off. I did have to work because it was a Wednesday. But I kind of was able to just grind through during the morning and, kind of just ease up in the afternoon so I could relax a little bit.
Just kind of slowly drift away from your afternoon duties.
Just somewhat. But no, all seriousness too, getting a sweet Traeger grill, the wood pellet grill. So I was doing a little shopping around for that bad boy and ordered one. That's going to be, I saw that it shipped yesterday. And it's going to be
how exciting.
Yeah, so it's going to Home Depot. I'm going to pick that bad boy up, put it together, and then, dude, we're literally going to be grilling around the clock for a while. I can see already the blood pressure and cholesterol just going sky high, but it's okay. It's going to be all worth it. And then, capped off the evening with my favorite dinner, linguine and, that white wine, just garlic clams, with linguine and clams. Oh, so good, so good. Had that, bro, and then, that was it, man. But here we are, a year older, looking good, feeling good. How's your week, man?
My week's been good. I have almost officially wrapped up school, so that's good.
Whoa.
That's freeing up my time dramatically. So
there's a lot more masturbation going on?
Yeah, but I can left-hand it though because I have more time.
An ambi-jerker. I like that. Very nice. Very nice.
You got to mix it up. Variety's the spice of life.
God damn it.
I'm a two-spice kind of a guy.
Very nice.
So yeah, it's been going really well. I can't complain. Everyone's doing good here. The family's doing good. I'm just excited to be out of school for a week, and then I'm sure I'll be right back in there, sucking the dick of school for another 4 months, and then that's it for me. I should be wrapping up my degree this year. So,
well, I mean, it's good that you're it's good that you're just a seasoned veteran. I would almost want to say expert at oral sex on men, So you'll be able to suck this school's dick and just suck it dry, and then before you know it, you'll be on the other end of this bad boy, huh? Feeling great.
It's because I'm an adult student, so I've been sucking life's dick for 20 years. So
that or life's dick has been kind of pounding your ass a little bit. Maybe both ways. I'm not sure.
Either way.
That sounds like something I could look up on Pornhub. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, and the older I get, the more fervent of a cocksucker I am for the spice of life.
Okay.
Speaking of getting old, we got an update on Mike Tyson.
Woo, Iron Mike is yeah, baby.
Special announcement.
It's there, baby. The exhibition match is lined up. I believe it's September 12th, 18th. Maybe spot check me on that one, but it has been announced last week that Iron Mike, for a charity exhibition 8-round bout, is going to be going toe-to-toe with Roy Jones Jr. Now, this is actually pretty fucking exciting. I mean, we were talking about this. We were looking at the tail of the tape. It looks just from I mean, we both know they're amazing boxers, right? They both have a great record, great history, but they're pretty equally matched up here, man. And I like that they dropped it down to an 8-rounder because let's face it, Tyson's 54.
No one wants to watch those guys stumble around town. Come on.
Yeah, there's chances of cardiac arrest happening in those later rounds, so we want to just cut that through. But no, all kidding aside, we got really tight on the age grouping because you remember they were talking about like Tito Ortiz versus Mike. Not only is that completely unfair if they're not boxing,
because Tito's like 12 years younger than him.
Yeah, he's like 45, but Roy Jones 51, right? Looks like height is only one. He's only got 1 inch on Tyson. You know, he's 5'11 versus 5'10. He's got a 3-inch reach, which we talked about really doesn't matter.
Which makes about perfect sense since he's about an inch taller.
Yeah, and it makes no difference with Tyson because Tyson's game is to get inside and get that uppercut game going and knock you the fuck out.
Right.
Tyson definitely has, from history, has more knockout power. He's got more, KOs than him, definitely. Pretty close on the records too. So I'm pretty excited about this one. It does look, and we were looking at this too. It looks like Tyson's pretty fucking beefy right now. Dare I say, maybe like just as strong as his heyday. What do you think, Bob?
Yeah, just as strong. I'm sure not as fast, but he seems more mentally stable, so he might be able to come up and execute a better game plan than he was able to back in his youth when, let's just be honest, he wasn't all there. And he's the first one to tell you about his mental issues when he was younger. So taking that alpha male to the extreme.
So are you saying the game plan is not get in there, do your best. If things start to, turn the tides for the other boxer, rip a part of his anatomy off, that's not the game plan anymore? Because
I don't think he's going to bite Roy Jones. I just don't.
God, I hope not. That would really depress me, dude, if he gets in there and rips off another ear.
Now, this fight, though, I'm sure Roy Jones is going to be in great shape too. Tyson looks like he's in great shape, we're looking at, great shape for a 54-year-old. So for Tyson to be in the shape he is for 54, that's incredible. All right. He's in incredible shape for his age. You can tell he's been training for a long time before they ever announced that he was looking for a charity match, because you don't just get into that kind of shape in a couple of months. He's probably been training for, the last couple of years to see if there's anything out there for him and if he can get into that kind of shape or not. And by all accounts, all the videos that I've seen, he's in good shape. I know for sure he can go a few rounds. Tyson's crutch has always been, if you make it to the 6th round, you made it. All right.
Yeah, true. So,
we'll see if that still holds true or not.
If he doesn't knock you out, right, in the first couple of rounds, that was kind of his forte, to get in there and kind of, I think we talked about this on another episode, but really upset the people that spent a lot of money on pay-per-view with their buddies getting this. It's like
90-second fights, baby.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's one for the history books. Now, this was interesting too. I was just checking this out here. This fight, it's been revealed now that the rules, no judges, and the bout, no judges in the bout to be stopped if either boxer suffers a cut. So this will be interesting. So they're not going to be going off scorecards, it looks like, right? It's going to be like who fucks who up, which I like that. I do like that. It's one thing. I get it. Boxing is a great sport. It can be extremely technical. Look at our boy. Who's the boxer? Jesus, I lost it. Just fought
Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah. Just Floyd. Well, we're talking about, one of the best probably defensive boxer of all time, right? But his fights, let's face it, they're fucking boring to watch. Dude.
Well, it's all defense.
It's all defense, and he's all relying not on knocking anybody out. He's relying on getting those points, making sure the other guy doesn't get as much, and he's looking to go the distance pretty much and win on the cards. That's his fucking thing. And that's great. He's very technical at it. He's very good. I can't discredit the guy for that. Besides, it's boring as fuck to watch as a spectator. What do you want to see? When you see a boxing fight, when you see an MMA fight, you don't want to see the guys in MMA or the fucking boxers hugging each other, being pushed away, dancing around, short little jabs here and there.
Yeah. You want to see someone get knocked out.
You want to see some blood and guts. You want to see fucking heads fucking shake from the fucking just powerful fucking right hooks.
The slow motion of the fist pounding the face as the eyes kind of roll back.
Yeah, you want to see roll back like a shark taking a bite out of somebody. And you want to see the mouthpiece fly out, big things of spit and blood mixed together. That is a good fucking boxing match. That's what Tyson brings to the game. And again, without the scorecards, you don't have to worry about getting pounded. You know what I mean? Because a lot of guys just trying to look for that knockout punch, man. if they're taking too many little jabs and this and that, well, that's points deducted and, going to the other guy. So I just saw that too. I love the idea of two guys that literally just want to get in there and show who's still got it and who can fucking handle the other guy. And now they don't have to worry about this ticky-tacky shit.
Well, and they're both pit bulls too. I imagine the first couple of rounds they're going to get in there and kind of fill each other out, and it'll kind of be like, oh, this is like a charity event. But once one or two like actual shots get landed, that's when those guys like former championship mentality is probably going to kick in, and you're going to start seeing some actual boxing. I imagine it can only be a charity bout until people start getting hit in the face.
Yeah, and I figured this, knowing kind of the persona and attitude of Tyson about how he just takes fighting so fucking seriously just right out of the gate coming into the match. If he doesn't come in there with that fucking killer instinct right when the bell rings, just like you said, he gets hit in the nose or something like that, then all of a sudden the Hulk is going to come out of him. You know what I mean? So that'll be interesting to see, because that his attitude and his drive, I can't speak as much for Roy Jones because I don't know as much about him personally, meaning I haven't seen as many interviews with him and learned about like kind of his philosophy about these things. It's going to be fun, man. I think, we're kind of just keeping our eye on this now. Look, it is September 12th. That's not that far away. You know what I mean? So we are going to have some Iron Mike back in action, which I honestly never thought he would box again. I thought he'd be taking care of his chickens for the rest of his life.
Is that going to be on pay-per-view?
I don't know.
I would imagine that it is, right?
I would have to say, yeah.
I kind of think I'm going to have to get it.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you not get Iron Mike?
You got to. I think we got to, dude.
Yeah.
They'll be lacing up with 12-ounce gloves, and there won't be any judges present at the fight to score the action. So technically,
which just means if it goes the distance, they'll call a draw and give their money to charity.
But what they're looking for here, so technically there won't be a winner unless a knockout somehow occurs or either fighter is deemed unfit to continue, like you were just saying. So, but guys, pretty excited about that.
Yeah, and the thing about Tyson is, I don't know. I guess he does have nasty hooks, but Roy Jones has probably still got a little bit in the tank since he fought 2 years ago. I mean, it's not like he's been sitting around for 15 years just waiting for a phone call to make some money. I'm super excited.
He's been working out, training, and then sitting there waiting for the phone call. Yeah, absolutely. No, it should be good, man. And honestly, I'm definitely a Mike Tyson fan. I would like to see Mike really come in and just blast Roy Jones. But like you were just saying, I have no idea. I think it's going to be a fantastic match. I'd be very surprised if it was one-sided. So again, what is it? A little less than a couple months, guys. We're going to get in there.
Yeah, get in there. Get your pay-per-views. Yeah, just all pitch in together and then social distance it in the backyard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just got to throw each other beers.
Now, Bob, we got to talk about something else here, man. We've seen what's been going on in Portland, right? We've seen what's been going on with other cities too, with the Trump's federal troops coming in and handling some business and basically. This is unsettling for a lot of people. Obviously, I get why he feels he needs to get things under control where it seems like there is no control in some of these cities. But I think he also tried to bring his dudes into Albuquerque, and that didn't seem to work out too well. Expand on that for me, though, Bob, because you live there.
Well, so there's a couple of things going on with all of this. First, last month, Trump signed an executive order saying that people, federal officers can protect monuments and federal buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fair enough. So in the end, he used the example of people trying to deface the Lincoln Memorial in D.C., which he just went ahead and threw troops over there because in D.C.'s not a state, right? So Trump actually has full military authority over D.C., with no limitations. So if he wants to pull the army in and militarize the streets of DC, he can. It's within his constitutional rights as president, as any president.
And honestly, that does make sense to me in the sense of security. Maybe not for this situation, but if we're getting invaded and DC is the target, which would make sense if people want to take us down, start with the general, everybody else will fall kind of scenario.
Right.
It makes sense that you'd want to have just complete control to take action to protect the capital of our country. So I get that. I get that. Makes sense. But what's happening in other places, this is where it starts to get a little dicey, right? Because the executive order says pretty much they can protect federal property at the end of the
Yes,
day, right?
federal
So
property.
that makes sense. However, a lot of what's going on here, having these kind of almost Gestapo style kind of secret police, you've told me about this too. My brother told me about this as well. There's been a lot of people that are quote unquote rioters and looters that are just getting picked up in unmarked vans or what have you and being taken to God knows where. And there doesn't seem to be any federal property or buildings around. So what's going on there?
So that's the problem, right? And then it's why are they being ordered to do that, right? So it seems like a classic bait, right? Because if the Portland mayor brings in the police to take action and stop these federal officers from overextending their reach, oh, that is the commercial that Trump wants. That's the narrative for him to really get a look at the lawless liberals, right, of this city. So I'm pretty sure that that's a fairly common thing. So they're trying to handle this politically. The Attorney General of Oregon is actually suing the federal government to get these troops out of there. I say troops. They're not troops. They're federal officers, right? They're a mixture of, ICE agents. They're a mixture of Border Patrol. So there's different ATF, DEA, FBI. There's a bunch of like 5 or 6 agencies that they're actually pulling these guys from to go, post up over there and do that. So what's going on in Oregon is definitely overreach from the executive order. And it's how to handle that politically, right? It puts the Oregon, governor and the Portland mayor in a very hairy situation that they are now forced to handle with a lot of nuance.
Let me ask you this:
the public opinion that can fall out from that.
Would you rather be in a hairy situation or a sticky situation?
Well, I think one comes before the other. I mean.
No, and
so there's another side to all this. So now there's Operation Legend. So this is a different thing. So this is a bar thing, right? A William Barr thing, saying that so many cities in America, their crime is out of control. Which just let's wind that back. Most cities in America have a significant reduction in crime because of all the stay-at-home orders and because of COVID. Similar to how the jobless numbers are terrible because of COVID and the stay-at-home orders and restaurants and all that closing down, right? So it's very skewed stats that way anyway. So what they're saying specifically about Albuquerque is that Albuquerque's crime's under control. Well, actually, murder's down like 27% from this time last year.
I haven't heard much about it. In fact, the only thing that there's some truth to that statement is there's select cities where things are still getting out of hand. I will say this: Chicago, completely out of hand. Yep. New York, completely out of hand. Oregon was getting pretty fucking bad. Seattle seemed to have calmed down once they got rid of CHOP. But other than that, I think that's about it. So
the new baby is Philly. So apparently there's 27% more murders in Philly or something like that Trump said. And I saw the fact check, and that's the numbers like actual, correct, and legit, that their murder has gone up like almost by a third, this year compared to last year. So they're saying they're going to send people in.
Wow, that doesn't surprise me at all, to be honest with you. Philadelphia is kind of a shitbag city sometimes when it comes to crime, but that's okay.
If you're going to send people in and they're there to provide manpower and help investigations and all that, that's fantastic. The problem that I'm having with this is, why 3 months before the election? I mean, you've been president for almost 4 years now. Has it not been a problem? Has crime not been a problem for like the last 4 years? That doesn't make any sense at all. So if you were going to do that, why wouldn't you just do it and be the president of law and order that, you're trying to portray yourself as, instead of just trying to be the president of law and order in the few months before the election? That's the biggest problem that I kind of have with all of this. Besides, obviously federal overreach.
Yeah, well, it's all political, right? I mean, unfortunately, a lot of things that shouldn't be politicized are being politicized. This happens to just be the next thing. And we've talked about it too. I honestly think this is Trump. Of course, you can spin it where this is where, again, there's that narrative too. And there's a school of thought like, hey, if you don't want federal troops federal agents coming into your city.
Handle your business.
Make sure that you're not one of the cities where it seems like things are completely out of control. Like, for instance, Portland, one thing I got to give it to, at least this city being a little bit out of control, is the mayor, Ted Wheeler, right? When he, I don't know if you saw that, but when he went to go join the protests thinking, hey, I'm going to be a part of the people here, dude, he got fucking ridiculed, yelled at. They were chanting at him, quit your fucking job. You're a part of the problem. And then he gets tear gassed in the face and had to fucking scramble out of there.
That poor guy can't win.
No, right? But dude, when the leadership of the city is that pathetic at that point, if you're watching that from the outside looking in, you're like, holy shit, the mayor's getting tear gassed by his own people. They're calling for him to fucking quit his job. We may need to get in here and help this out and create, get some law and order and get things fucking back on the up and up in Portland. So again, get the radar off your back. But it is very timely. And we were talking about this. Trump is not looking good in the polls right now. The enthusiasm for Trump, I guess, is always great or whatever, but the group that is enthusiastic about him is getting smaller and smaller, and the enthusiasm to get him out of office is getting larger and larger. He knows this. It's looking more grim than it even did in 2016. Yeah, he did pull off the win, but the numbers are starting to separate even more in Biden's favor. So he's pulling, man. He's grabbing. You know what I mean? He's trying anything he can possibly do to get those numbers back the other way. Let's get this pendulum to swing back the other way.
Well, he has to. He has to do what he has to do. It's election season. I'm not a huge fan of federal overreach. If someone needs federal help, let them ask for it. They'll let you know if it's something that they can't handle anymore.
Isn't that
something that their city can't handle?
Right. And sorry to interrupt, but isn't that supposed to be the case? Without this little loophole fucking executive order about government buildings or whatever, we can just come in there. If you're going to bring federal assistance, it needs to be called upon by that said state's governor, right?
Yeah,
so there has to be knowledge.
Traditionally, according to the laws in the books, any governor can ask the assistance from the president to bring in federal officers to their town to help with whatever. But it has to be with the governor's permission and with that request, so that way a president can't get squirrely and just start sending in troops and militarizing, the country and putting people on lockdown. So, obviously there's the narrative of that's what's happening here from the more far left of, troops militarizing and going into Democratic cities in case he loses the election is kind of the far left conspiracy going on right now. But I don't necessarily think that's what's happening. But I do think that he's definitely trying to push the envelope, and he's trying to get some good material for commercials coming up. I definitely think that's happening.
I'm actually sitting here thinking to myself too, as you're saying that, I'm thinking like, how, if I lived in Portland right now, and everybody knows, okay, yeah, yes, they're unmarked cars. Where are these people being taken? Why are they being taken? What's the end result here, right? What's the product that we're looking for here? And in my mind, if I'm a citizen of Portland, and let's just say I'm an independent, right? I don't know who I'm voting for still. If I know that Trump has ordered, federal officers to come in and do this, and it definitely looks like they're overstepping their reach, right, and doing things that don't make sense for why they are even supposed to be there. It doesn't equate. I don't know how that's going to sway me to be like, you know what? I think Trump's doing a good job. I'm going to go ahead and vote for him. It seems like this may backfire on him to a certain extent.
Well, and why the secrecy, Scotty? Why not publicly go to the news and give a presser and say, we've got these agents coming down. They're going to be here, 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 and here, and here. They're here to prevent any sort of destruction or damage to federal property. They have the authority to do anything that any police officer does, state or local. Sure. And here's their rules of engagement. Mm-hmm. And you know what I mean? Why isn't that out in the open? Why aren't they wearing badge numbers? Why don't they have their name on there? There's no accountability.
You're right. And I think the secrecy doesn't make any sense because honestly, like you just said, have a conference about it. Let everybody know they're going to be here. And then also give them a fucking warning, right? Say, hey, don't, like you said, here's the rules of engagement. Don't fuck around. These people are here to take care of business if business needs to be taken care of, right? And give people a blanket, like, don't fuck around.
Give them the warning. Stay away from these guys.
Yeah, stay away from this. Don't, and that way you might have more of a deterrent for people that were saying, oh, okay, maybe I shouldn't go down here and do this. And then you'd also have transparency for, again, that random Joe Schmo in Oregon that's just independent right now, doesn't know who he's voting for, wants to see that there's some value in keeping this president or not. I think if he went about it that way, very transparently, I may have a different opinion about it. Okay, he's sending troops here because things look like they're getting out of hand. They are getting out of hand. I'm a little bit scared what's going on every night in my city. But they're here just in case, and they're saying, let's keep things under control. If they get way out of control, we're going to step in. You guys have been warned. We're being very transparent about it. That I can respect.
So I think what Trump's really trying to accomplish here is let them overreach. Let them be a little bit thuggish and aggressive and get them on TV in Portland. Then I'm going to send out a bunch of federal officers across the country to assist with Operation Legend, which is just basically assisting with law enforcement and cold cases and what have you, right? Mm-hmm. And then I'll send in more across the country to the monuments so that anyone that's not paying attention and specifically knows what's going on legally will just assume that I'm sending in the troops just like I did in Portland. Yeah. And send them everywhere, right? And I think that's the idea, is to promote that fear and send them out there. And I don't know why. I really can't believe that it has to do with the election. I really can't believe that in America that anyone in their right mind would actually try to throw a coup against the government with our own military. I just cannot believe that.
It's one of those things, man. Again, it's unfortunate, it's unlawful to a certain extent too in certain areas. And I don't know how much of a difference it's really going to have for him in a positive way. So we'll have to wait and see. Again, I'm very interested to get to, what is it, November 3rd. Very interested to see what's going to happen here, because there's going to be a lot of people pulling out all the stops and acting crazy. By the way, speaking of somebody that's kind of just gone off the cuff, and acted a little crazy, did you get to catch Nick Cannon and his interview and his thoughts about race?
I caught a little bit of that. Yeah, it was pretty ridiculous.
Maybe the Stiffies don't know. Maybe we should kind of dive into a little bit. You want to explain to what the gist of what he's saying?
Yeah. So Nick Cannon did an interview last year and basically tried to explain the evolution of man for the last few hundred years and the mental capacities and the behavior differences based on the melanin. Yeah, you heard that right, folks. The melanin of your skin. Mm-hmm. And how the less melanin you have in your skin, the more barbaric and animalistic you are, and the more likely you are to commit rape, murder, crimes.
In general, across the board. Yeah, there was no exceptions here. Which,
it was very much similar to a KKK narrative that's been out there for 100 years. Is the opposite. The less melanin, or the more melanin you have, the more animalistic, right? It's like the KKK way. So basically he's going the KKK way, but he's just flipping it completely around. But either way, it was completely reckless and irresponsible, and I haven't seen someone that overtly racist in a long time, since, I don't know, like my great grandpa.
Seriously, you're absolutely right, man. It's literally like I could have been watching an interview with David Duke. You know what I mean? It was the same fucking feeling, and it blows me away that this guy still has some credibility to him. And I have to say, maybe it's because of the current climate, and the racial tension or whatever. But like we were talking about earlier, I think he got fired from MTV. But I'm pretty sure he still has his job as the host of The Masked Singer. And you would think with this kind of rhetoric, it being glaringly ultra racist, that he would be completely discredited and disbarred from everything. But that's not the case. And that's troubling to me a little bit, because as we were talking about before too, any other race comes out, an Asian guy comes out, an Hispanic guy comes out, God forbid a white guy comes out and says something similar about this in favor of his race, that guy's gone. He's gone, dude. You might as well call him Kevin Spacey or Louis C.K. I mean, again, erased from the history books pretty much and discredited for everything he's done. So that to me is pretty troubling. I had a hard time watching that. But at the same time, what's really refreshing is seeing people that are of the same race that don't buy into the rhetoric. They don't just jump on the bandwagon like a lot of people are doing. And also, it's really refreshing to see these people as very high stature, very well-to-do, very well-respected members of American society. And I think you know what I'm talking about here. Got some information. Morgan Freeman is very, very strongly opinionated against just the idea of racism and how it affects people in America. There's a few others, but Bob, thoughts there, because that is totally a flip side of what Nick Cannon says.
Yeah, and what did he had a very anti-Semitic thing that he said. Did you catch that part? Because he started no. Nick Cannon was talking about the Jews as well. Like he said something about the Jews that got him into real big trouble too. I just had forgotten to mention that, but
well, no, I mean, well, that doesn't surprise me, dude, because honestly, if he thinks people with less melanin in their skin are closer to animals, that's like almost his direct quote there. They're closer to animals than, you know, other people. I would have to imagine he doesn't feel very positive about the Jewish race either, considering they're mostly
it's
white.
very crazy that he'd go on and legitimately say it. But you're right. It was interesting to kind of look at some of the other, some of the other outspoken people in the Black community, and just I was really taken aback by the Morgan Freeman statements that he had made, and it was over several different interviews, and it was just kind of his viewpoints on not just like Black Lives Matter, but on racism in America at all, right? And he said that the best way that we can overcome racism is by simply moving past it, not recognizing it anymore.
Not making it the center of attention, right? Not making it the topic for everything. I mean, he went as far to say, because it was the interview with what's his the CNN anchor, Don Lemon.
Oh yeah.
It's an interview with him about what he thought about racism and this and that. He's like, look, you and I are a perfect example. Like, you know, just do hard work, achieve what you want to achieve, and you can make it. You know, race has nothing to do with it, right? And he went as far to say the way to stop racism is to quit fucking talking about it. I mean, and obviously that's a little oversimplification of things, but
a little paraphrasing.
Yeah, a little bit of paraphrasing. And the other thing I really like too is he doesn't like the idea of a Black History Month. Why should they have a Black History Month? I know this is probably going to really ruffle some feathers out there, but he pointed out, you know, to the interviewer, I think it was Charlie Rose too, or something like that too. But it's like, hey, when is White History Month? He's like, we don't have another one. He's like, well, I'm Jewish anyways. Okay, cool. When is Jewish History Month? He's like, no, there isn't one. Do you want one? He's like, no, neither do I. Basically, he said the reason why is because Black history is American history. Why, again, point it out, categorize it, and separate it from the rest of American history. That's what I got from that.
Well, and there's something to be said, right? Well, I'm not discrediting that racism exists. Obviously, it does. I mean,
yeah,
there's some people with deep-seated racism, some family-driven racism that's generational, and obviously that exists in America. But there is something to be said by, you know, if we quit acknowledging anything special about anyone's race in America ever, that'll help us normalize that culture and keep moving forward. So generationally, yes, those people that are super racist and those families that are super racist will literally have to like outgrow that through generations. But the more society normalizes that, then maybe over the next 30, 40, 50 years, we can try to quell a lot of that. But I did really find it enlightening because Morgan Freeman's not a young pup, man. He's in his 80s. He's been around for it.
Which means he's dealt with hardcore racism when it was very socially acceptable to, you know, to have colored water fountains, colored bathrooms. You can't ride on the bus. You got to go to this school. Basically, you get subpar everything. So it is very interesting to see somebody. Yeah, he's very wealthy now. But you know what? Again, I don't know if we talked about this. I don't believe Morgan Freeman comes from fucking some rich family like Trump or something like that. I think he self-made himself, right? Same thing with the other people that were that interview. Denzel Washington, another person that said, hey, the biggest thing is it's not the system, you know, picking on Black people. It's that the family and the household is already broken before the system can get in there, right? So he had a lot of this hooked on to a lot of what happens with young black men and why they go into crime is because they don't have a father figure, right? And he put himself in and explained his two best friends. Both these other guys are in jail for 25, 35 years. He's the only one that had a father figure in his life. So it's interesting to hear people say that too, because I know Denzel Washington was another person that didn't come from rich family. You can't say that he had privilege.
Well, he also made a great point too. He said the system is definitely set up against people of color.
Sure.
So the trick is to avoid the system. And how do we avoid that system to begin with? And we simply don't get in the system, and how do we do that? By having more fathers in the house. Specifically, it was fathers. I know you and I hit on this briefly before the show when we were talking, and I'd said that, having two parents around in general has been something that we've gone away from in America because the gap between rich and poor has gotten so fast that it's a requirement for the mass majority of people to have two income households so that both parents are gone all the time. So whether you're a single parent or you have two parents that are never there anyway, is there a whole lot of difference from that? Because I'm going to say it's probably not. We're relying on schools to raise our children while we go try to earn the money just to simply pay our bills, meaning the two parents. And then those kids out there that also don't have two parents in the household for either a single parent household or two income household to where they're gone all the time anyway, those kids are raising each other with our underpaid teachers. That's who's raising our children. And then now we're faced with, what are the crime stats when you have, basically, neglected children as they grow up? I'm sure they're a lot worse. I don't have them on hand, but there's another thing about we need to find a way to put parents back in the household to save our children.
Yeah,
it's all about the kids.
There you go, baby. There you go. It is. But it really boils down to this to me. Again, never want to oversimplify anything, but I think the biggest contributing factors to the system getting you, one, like you just said, look, if you don't want to be taken advantage of by the system, and it's definitely skewed towards people of color, minorities, and let's face it, the poor in general, right? Which is, again, another skewed thing towards minorities, then basically, you can't put yourself in that situation. And it boils down to this. It boils down to poverty and a broken household. If you have those two things, I would have to say, and I'm not looking at any stats, but I would have to imagine that exponentially those children that are products from a broken household and poverty have a huge more likelihood of being just dragged through the system for the rest of their lives, right? So you cannot put yourself in that position, especially if you have those stats building up against you. You already know that what you got to do. And I love what you said too about, again, if we don't focus so much on the division and keep categorizing, and people are special because of their races and everything, and start normalizing that we are all fucking human beings, right? I'm not going to go
Americans. We're all Americans.
Yeah, we're all Americans. But then if that did happen for so long, you know what you'd have? You'd have a lot more people that have perspectives and experiences and life lessons like Lil Wayne, where he actually believes he's been very blessed. He has never, ever been a victim of any kind of racism to his knowledge. He, in fact, says he doesn't even believe racism exists because of his experiences. Not saying that it doesn't exist, but from his life and what he's gone through, he did not see it. And I think that has a lot to do with, again, maybe just his situations that he was in and his experience growing up. He didn't have to deal with it because people weren't very racist. They didn't point out special things about him or white people or what have you. So I think we could have a lot more people with that perspective if we actually got that normalizing of everybody being Americans and quit just being so fucking fixated on pointing out the color of their skin and why that makes you different, better, worse, what have you.
So as far as Lil Wayne goes, and I mean, it really, when I was hearing his interview and he was talking about how, me and my crew have never really experienced racism on our journey, on our path to this point. And like he said, he's very blessed, right? It kind of makes me think of the laws of attraction, right? Like that's a real thing, right? The visualize and put it out there and focus and things like come to you. but it also works negatively.
Come
And I
to butt
hate to
head.
say it, but
No.
if you're expecting racism all the time and looking for it, you're going to find it.
You're going to manifest it. Absolutely, dude. And if you walk around with that attitude, you're going to see it everywhere too. We talked about this with conspiracies, right? If you're focused on the conspiracy being real, you'll just manifest the reasons why it's correct, why you're right, because you're so fixated on that. Your mind can't do anything else besides think about that. So it's the same fucking kind of, it's the
Well,
same thought process.
I also want all the Stiffies to be clear. I'm not saying that racism it doesn't exist. It only exists in people's heads that bring it upon themselves. That is not what I'm saying. It
No,
is
no, 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 no.
100% that racism exists, and there are some racist ass people out there. But what I'm saying is if you are always looking for it, that you may create more opportunities for racism to enter your daily, to enter your life.
And we
That's
know
what I'm trying to say.
And we know some people like this, right? Where they can't hang it up. Everything is racism, and it's it's it's
Well,
annoying.
and
It's
minority and not.
yeah, right.
I see it on both sides.
Oh yeah, totally. But I'm sick of seeing it because yeah, racism is real, but constantly making it the focal point. I know people think there's a lot of people like we need to have these conversations. I was like, yeah, we need to have the conversations about how we can start understanding that we shouldn't be treated special or different or worse or whatever based on the color of our skin, but always at making the focal point, the topic of conversation, basically never having any other ideas in your head besides everything is racist. This is where we're at right now and why we're getting more division and why it seems like we're basically going backwards. We're kind of treading backwards in time. And it feels like the separation, the division, the segregation between white and black and what have you. And I think I said this before, it feels like we're back in the 1950s, man. You know, we're not getting anywhere. Yeah. We're not progressing by continuously making race the biggest deal in the room about everything. That's just making more people feel the division, whatever group you are, whether if you're white, whether you're black, whether you're Hispanic. Right now, you feel like you are different from all the others, probably more than it's ever been. You know what I mean? Or at least in a long time.
Yeah, and that goes for like more things than race. That goes for, we need to promote more unity and tolerance in all divisive things in America, specifically with race and politics.
Mm-hmm.
If we could stop, going at each other's throats for being left or right or black or white, and focus more on how do we move forward and solve problems for our children in America so that they don't have to deal with the issues that we need to try to figure out, that's the path forward.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And I thought it was really interesting too, again, just with the focal point and I'm going to go ahead and say this, the oversensitivity about any kind of racial thing, right now. It's just, if you mention anything, you're a horrible person for doing so, but I can't remember again. I already lost the guy's
Anthony
name.
Mackie.
There you go. Anthony Mackie. Something that I love that he brought up here. And don't get me wrong, guys. I'm not saying that racism was going away or something like that in the 70s and 80s, right after the civil rights. It was still very apparent with certain people. But the big difference now that he's noticed too with just entertainment and society, right, is we used to be able to, and he mentioned like, All in the Family, Archie Bunker, Sanford and Son, The Jeffersons. I'll even mention like Blazing Saddles, stuff like that. A lot of Mel Brooks stuff. There was ultra racism in there, ultra stereotypes in there, but both white, black, and every other person was able to laugh at that and not take it seriously and basically not take it fucking personally. We know these stereotypes out there, and goddamn it, if you're going to make a comedy, some of them are pretty fucking funny if you're going to fucking take it easy and understand that we're just picking fun and we're doing this. Yeah, we're pointing it out, but we're doing it in a way that is laughable, right? And that's gone now. You cannot have TV shows like All in the Family or The Jeffersons or make brand new movies like Blazing Saddles anymore. And I think that's unfortunate too, because I think it really, again, goes back to this total hyper focus on racism right now. So anything that even touches something that could be racist is automatically deemed unworthy and evil.
Well, and it's difficult to even talk about because, oftentimes when I even say the word, the black community or whatever, I have to really think about what I'm saying so that I don't get vilified for how I'm saying it. You know what
You
I
got
mean?
to you got to tiptoe. You have to tiptoe about
It's
everything,
very
man.
tough, and you have to be very careful about phrasing and how you lay out a viewpoint or a situation out there. And sometimes we say things that doesn't come out right. And and if someone says something and it sounds off, or it's a little bit, they said it wrong. That happens from time to time. Not everyone is perfect, especially we do a semi-live show, right? I mean, it's recorded live.
But let's just face it. There's been a couple things that I've said when I haven't had my filter on that we've had to edit out. I get a little when I get a little intense. Sometimes things just come out that aren't really.
Well, we all get there, right? We just all do it, and we all say things that that's not how I meant. That came out wrong, and then we get vilified for it. And especially, we're not at this situation yet to where we're known all across the country to where reporters will actually take us out of context and vilify us yet. But
I like
it'll
that.
happen at some point.
Two yets. I like that. Very optimistic of where we're going. The trajectory. The stiff truth, baby.
But even still, I just you guys know us, and beyond race, beyond politics, Scott and I are very patriotic people. And I think we see a lot of things as Americans in general first, and then we kind of take it from that step down and then look at it a little bit deeper. But a lot of people don't, and I think a lot of the problem, to be honest with you, is social media.
Oh God, dude.
And how people will hide behind their thousands of miles of separation, which we have talked about in another episode about that sense of anonymity and miles behind them. But a lot of people will say things that they truly think and they truly feel, but would never say to someone's face. But they'll put it out on Facebook, and it creates divisiveness, and it creates hate, and it creates a group think of hate.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong either. I mean, having the global connection through the internet is a positive thing for a lot of different reasons. However, like you said, we've got these internet tough guys that will just fucking unfiltered say a bunch of horse shit, and people take it seriously. And this goes back to our talk about journalism too, right? A lot of people, even if it's just reading other people's posts, that's where they get their news. Sometimes they only look that far. So we got a lot of people that don't do that second and third deep dive into stuff to really understand what's going on, and that's compounding too and making it worse. But I don't know about you, Bob, but I'm getting thirsty. I know you started our show with a beer because you're just celebrating right now.
That's right.
God damn it. But why don't we just, what do you think? Is it time? Let's go get a cocktail.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, baby.
Cheers, Scotty.
Oh, cheers all the way. Cheers to your tits.
Cheers for fears.
Oh, that's a great band.
Cheers for beers.
Recline that thing all the way back. Pour yourself a nice little bottle of bubbly.
Hey there.
Hey, big boy. How we doing?
I made it.
I'm telling you, you've got to be getting in a little bit more shape now. You don't seem nearly as winded and as sweaty when you used to go down the 20 flights of stairs to make drinks before.
Is it that I take my break now in the landing? I grab my knees, catch my breath.
You do your wheezing at the bottom of the stairs, and then
my inhaler. I'm gonna make it.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. We've got mixed reviews from some people about these cocktails here, but I really enjoy them. And just to let everybody know, let's do one of these little bad boys. Look at that. You got the cherry in there too. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yes. We are having today, kids, we are having the Harvey Wallbanger. Now, what's interesting is, hold on. Cheers, by the way.
Oh yeah. Cheers to your tits.
Cheers for fears. Now, one thing I love about the Harvey Wallbanger, this can be an AM cocktail. This is an all-day cocktail is what I'm trying to say. You can have this at any hours of the day.
Yeah, because there's some that aren't.
Wait, you know what I mean? You don't necessarily want to make yourself a rusty nail for your brunch while you're eating eggs.
What a man.
God, that sounds like something Chuck Norris would do, right? For sure.
Seriously.
But
he doesn't even make a drink. He just pours the drambuie and the scotch at the same time into his mouth.
But no, what I love about this drink is, let's face it here, this is a nice little twist on the classic screwdriver, right, guys? So the Harvey Wallbanger, just to let everybody know, if you want to get out there. By the way, we invite people, and we're going to start doing this regularly. I kind of fucked the pooch a little bit yesterday. I did a little late in the day, but I'll make sure that everybody knows what cocktails we're going to be mixing up prior to the show. And that way, if you guys want to, whether or not you're doing it, I think you should, when you listen to the show, whether it be Sunday evening, Monday, I don't know, a lot of people have probably different frequencies when they are able to catch the show. But that way, if you want, you can have these drinks with us and experience the fun and just the buzz that we get from these amazing cocktails. So we're going to start
And
doing
you'll
that.
get a buzz from a couple Harvey Wallbangers, I'll tell you
You
that.
sure will. Especially, you know what I did here too? Because I was like, you know what? Doing a little bit more vodka than necessary.
Me too. An
And
extra little half shot of vodka.
even though it's pretty pricey, I went from a half of ounce to 3/4 of an ounce. I was ginger with that one, just to let you know.
Oh, I just eyeballed mine with a spoon as I was floating it over the top. Speaking of floating it over the top, a Harvey Wallbanger, by the way, guys, is a nice shot of vodka right over ice, 3 ounces or so of orange juice, and then you float Galliano's liqueur, about a half a shot of that over the top of it, right? And then just garnish it or whatever. So it's basically a screwdriver with a floated amount, and that means you pour it over a spoon as to not let it float, drip down to the bottom of the glass. You don't want it mixing. You want it to float on top of your drink so that it stays there for those first few drinks, and then it kind of mixes in.
Yeah, and it's fantastic. I mean, I think Jess didn't have a really good reception to this drink, but I think the Galliano, besides being a really interesting kind of liqueur, really gives it that nice little extra punch, and it blends nicely with the orange juice and the vodka, but it does have these subtle hints, floral hints, licorice hints, that really do take it to the next level and give it that like nice little aftertaste. And let's face it too, it gives the screwdriver some balls, right?
Well, and I think I put a little too much in hers, and she doesn't really like licorice or, Jaeger or that kind of taste. So the rusty nail, she doesn't like the rusty nail.
Well, to each their own. I love them. I would have sex to a rusty nail. That sounds really, really painful, but I would do it. I'd do it. I'd take one for the team, buddy. But getting back to a little bit of history about this guy, I thought it was pretty interesting. This is as some famous drinks, because let's face it, I'm pretty sure a lot of the Stiffies have heard the term Harvey Wallbanger in movies, literature, out in the bar. I've never had one before. I'm gonna be really honest and transparent here. This is my first rodeo with the Mr. Wallbanger. Yesterday was. I had about 3 or 4 of them yesterday, though. They were great. But what I thought was interesting, there's a little controversy about this bad boy. It is really reputed to be created and invented in 1952. Now, check this out. This is great. By a 3-time world champion mixologist, Mr. Donato Duke Anton, right? And this was supposed to happen in a Blackwater bar in Los Angeles of his, 1952. However, there's a lot of people that says this is an unbelievably false story, never happened, and that this gentleman never even lived at this time in Los Angeles. He lived in Connecticut, which is pretty interesting. But it doesn't really give
Connecticut,
credit.
Los Angeles. I always get those confused.
Yeah, right. They're so common. They're such in the same area geographically too. So I thought that was kind of strange. But then the other thing that I thought was pretty interesting is getting away from this 3-time mixologist. And let's face it, dude, honestly, a 3-time world champion mixologist, and the best that he can do is make a screwdriver and throw a little bit of fucking liqueur on top. It sounds a little lackluster, but hey, maybe simplicity is beauty, right? Let's look at bands like, say, Nirvana, Black Sabbath. Not very hard songs to play on the guitar, but they're amazing songs, right? So there's that. But anyways, the other part of this says, okay, maybe McKesson Imports Company, who was responsible for distributing Galliano, the liqueur in it, they are credited as well potentially for creating the drink and basically coming up with a cute little tagline, Harvey Wallbanger. They even had like a little guy draw up a graphic, like a cartoon that was like a sandal clad like 60s California surfer guy or what have you. And this was their way to promote and jack up sales, right, of Galliano in general. So there's that too. And the other thing I thought was interesting is Galliano itself. This is a very old liqueur, bro. I mean, this was developed in 1896 by an Italian distiller and brandy maker, which I thought was pretty cool. And it's given, the bottle's phenomenal, isn't it? Did Jess like the bottle?
She did, and so did my toddler. She's like, that bottle's big.
Yeah, it's a very tall, like thin bottle that just kind of tapers up to a smaller top. It's a very cool bottle, guys. But something I do got to highlight: if you want to go out there and make a Harvey Wallbanger, it's not very cheap. It's somewhere in the neighborhood, depending on where you go, close to $40 to $45 a bottle. So it's just a fifth too. So it's a little bit pricey, but it's cool. It's very old. It's credited as being like the first kind of liqueur of this style with the floral elements and everything. So good shit. And then there's some pop culture to it as well. You know, I mean, one thing that I thought was pretty funny, I told you about too, that CB radio lingo, right? So truck drivers, old school cops and stuff like that. If you radioed in and said, hey, we got a Harvey Wallbanger over here, that's literally somebody that cannot stay in their lane and keeps kind of weaving in and out of lanes and is drunk as fuck. And I thought that was pretty fucking funny because literally.
It's like driving on 550 at like 1 a.m.
Right.
on your way to Farmington.
Exactly.
You run across a few Harvey Wallbangers on the way.
Yeah. So they're literally hitting those peripheral walls, you know, like back and forth, which is pretty funny. The only other one I thought that was kind of cool too is like, you know, other pop culture things too, famous in movies. Hear No Evil, what is it? Hear No Evil, See No Evil. Richard Pryor's character loves Harvey Wallbangers. So cool. It's got a lot of let's get some history to it. It's got some notoriety to it in pop culture. I love the drunk driver term. I'm going to start saying that when I see somebody I think is driving drunk in front of me. It's like, look at this fucking Harvey Wallbanger over here.
Or they're a texting Harvey Wallbanger.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing I thought was pretty interesting too, Bob. Just kind of, I guess we'll finish it up here. But Jamie actually thought Harvey Wallbanger was when somebody like pins you against the wall and has sex with you. And I was like, huh, I never even thought about that. Yeah, so that's a Harvey Wallbanger. But I looked it up. It doesn't seem to be a lot of validity to that. But if that's where she wants to take it, God bless her.
It's not a glory hole reference.
Hey, just like if that's all I'm thinking about, everything is a glory hole reference for me, baby.
Yeah, it's funny. Glory holes. The answer to COVID sex.
keep some distance here, just right through the hole, no breathing. You know, you got the plexiglass thing all the way down. It's very personable. I like that.
That's right. You can switch out with your buddy when you get tired and no one notices. Very
bro,
safe.
I'm running dry. You want to tag in? Oh, well, on that note, I think, God, this is a good one. Do you have a handle on that mug too? Oh my goodness. Are you having a little trouble holding your glasses like Trump, or is
I gotta.
Let me give the play-by-play. He's slowly easing the mug to his lips. He's puckered up. He's ready.
He's ran out of steam. The right hand for the assist.
Bring in reinforcements. He's going down. But hey, let's do it again, baby. We're jumping into a really fun segment that we've been running for a little while here. There it is. Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. Conspiracy theories. What do we got today?
Well, before we get down to the conspiracy theories, we did want to talk about the coronavirus vaccine and kind of give an update on what's going on. So there's about, 7, 8 places in the world that are doing it. You know, Merck, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, all the big pharma players.
Regeneron's in there. Yeah.
So plus Bill Gates has his foundation working on it too, of course, because how else are we going to spread our microchips? So
yeah. That's another show, Bob.
That's another show. We're going to talk about in our conspiracy theory. But everyone's doing really good. Actually, I would imagine that there's only a couple of different ways to make a Mai Tai. But when it comes to coronavirus vaccines, so there's a few different places that are already in phase 3 of their trials, which is pretty awesome. So that means we're a few months out from actually, getting winners.
explain to the Stiffies here too, because phase 3 sounds pretty exciting, but it also sounds like it's a part of a video game or something like that. What does that technically mean? Where are they at? Are they starting human trials? I mean, where or
They've already started human trials.
Okay,
So
so
phase 3
basically,
is human trials.
so it looks like things are moving along nicely through the theoretical process. Now we're putting things in
Right.
action. Okay.
Right, and the last one I saw that did it first confirmed the end of their clinical trials initial test, which was just a small sample size of I believe 45, but all 45 people showed quote significant antibody reaction to the vaccine, which in all 45. So that means there wasn't an outlier there that it didn't work on, and that's very, very positive,
This
because
is
we
good
all
stuff,
know
man.
the only time we're going to be able to like successfully get this economy cranking where we want it to be again and get those investments back up is going to be if we can all go out of the house at the same time, because
Yep.
this whole trickling and open the economy, even though it's cool about my freedom to get the restaurants open, if you're not going to have the same amount of patrons coming to your restaurant, then who the fuck cares if you're open, if you're running in the red?
Well,
Right.
again, and let's not downplay it that much. I do believe that some of these industries are starving for any business. So getting this 25, 50% business is better than being completely shut down. But you're absolutely right, though. It is basically a Band-Aid for what really needs to happen. And we need to get back to 100% occupancy. We need people in the stands. We need concerts back. We need the entire economic machine turning again. And the only way that's going to happen is a cure therapy that gets this fucking little I was about to say something that we would have had to edit just now. So I'm glad that I caught myself. But
and that's what a lot of the U.S. economists are saying too.
Yeah.
To get the economy going again, we have to 100% get this virus contained so that we can open up everything full steam ahead. And count our losses, because all these small businesses that can't handle operating on 25 or 50% income because they don't have this retained earnings built up are operating much like Boeing.
Yeah.
Oh,
And here's the other thing too. There's certain industries still that are completely at a standstill, like movie theaters, right?
Mhm.
And I'll tell you this now too. Me and Jamie, 10-year anniversary is coming up in October. Back in like May or something like that, we're like, hey, you know what? Being optimistic, by October, this should be under control enough for us to go on a cruise. They should have this shit open again. Just got the email a few days ago. Hey, sorry, we're not where we thought we would be at this point. I'm like, yeah, us either. You know what I mean? Your cruise is.
Should we rent you a boat and like serve you some Subway?
I would.
would that work for you?
It might be what needs to happen apparently at this point. But you know what I mean? So industries like that even thought we should be back to normal by September, August. No, all those cruises now are canceled. I would imagine until the end of this year now. You know what I mean? Because they just told us straight up in the email I got, like, hey, because of this and because we're not where we're at, because the safety for everybody is of the utmost importance, your cruise has been canceled. They're trying to get me to rebook and basically double down and get a better deal and push it out, which I'll probably do. You know what I mean? But industries like that, movie theaters, they're still at a complete standstill. I don't know, the movie theaters are graveyards right now, so they got nothing going on.
And people were making these projections. They were execs hoping and just making random time frames and hoping for the best. But I mean, really, the one thing that holds true is back in like March, good friend of the show, Tony Fauci, said, said that it's going to take about a year to 18 months to get a vaccine out in production and get everyone safe. So we need to buy time until then. And as we keep moving along, that's looking more and more realistic. So maybe we can get it by the end of the year, which would be ahead of time. To have it in 9 or 10 months would be pretty incredible. But I mean, realistically, I don't think that they're still going to be ready, because even after they're done, they still have to handle the logistics of getting this vaccine to hundreds of millions of people.
Sure. No, 100%. And I just read an article that Pfizer had been granted with their vaccine that they have under development to have like something like 100 million doses distributed out right away. I mean, they're like, they're getting these things lined up. And this is what I honestly think this. I'm going to be a little bit optimistic here. I think where we're at right now with the clinical trials, and this is the beauty of the fucking free market too. Let's not just slice it up, right?
Everyone wants the billions of dollars that comes with being first.
There's an average of 30 billion of profit for anybody that has the right vaccine that comes out first. So and this is the beauty, and definitely opposite of journalism for what we talked about last week, right? This is where the free market works the best, because now we have 5-6 huge pharmaceutical companies, global pharmaceutical companies, trying to race to get that profit. And God bless them, because this is going to be the best for the people. Now, one thing they got to highlight, though, is I hope they take their time making sure it's safe and there doesn't have dramatically horrible side effects. And that's something we are going to get into in our conspiracy, because that's part of the conspiracy in general. But yeah, I think we might be a little bit ahead of schedule, to be honest.
It sounds like we are, and it sounds like China has a pharmaceutical company over there that reported the same results as AstraZeneca like a few days after. So they're like right there with them.
But they also said that it wasn't transferable from person to person when they knew it was. So there's that.
Well, they also said that they like want what's best for Americans in the trade. So.
And
they say a lot of things, but in the end, they're an oligarchy and they're a communist country. They can say whatever the fuck.
And Maury Povich found out that was a lie.
So yeah, lots of positive things coming along with the vaccine, and really we just have to buy time. So some of that may be addressed. The Senate and Congress are actually meeting right now, and to be a fly on the wall when. Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi are in the same room, right? They start talking about like,
what that's going to be like?
Before people had like dollar bills with presidents on them, and back when they traded and bartered for things. And
oh, by the way, total sidebar. Got a little fun fact for you here. Do you know who the first president was to be on a currency, a coin, circulated in the United States?
Ooh, that's interesting.
I'll give you some options. John Adams, Thomas Jefferson.
That's my options?
No. George Washington.
Okay.
And Abraham Lincoln.
Let's go with Adams.
You'd be wrong.
All right.
Believe it or not, the first president to be on a U.S. coin is Abraham Lincoln.
How about that?
It was a celebration in the early 1900s. Now, this will make sense. When did the Fed come along? 1913, right? So they didn't start putting presidents on currency until about that time, and it was an anniversary to celebrate Lincoln's presidency and his legacy. I didn't think it was right. I actually went with Washington. I was like, it's got to be Washington, right? He's the first president, or John Adams, like, it's the second president, third president, something like that. It threw me for a loop. It was a little trivia that I was doing at work with we're doing like a little team building thing. And I was like, got that one fucking wrong. I never would have thought, but now it makes sense, right? Because who's on the penny? The most basic coin currency, right? So then I thought about it, I was like, that does make sense.
And are they going to put him somewhere else here in a little bit when they get rid of the penny? Because it's fucking worthless as tits on a man.
Hey, speak for yourself. I like my tits. But at the end of the day, you're right. I actually, and I don't do this anymore, I used to throw away fucking pennies, dude. I was like,
if you clean out your car and you pull like 4 that are stuck together, are you separating those and cleaning them?
No, you're throwing them out. And they're usually got like soda like spilled on them, semen, whatever you were up to when they were, in good form. It's not worth it. Now, if they're silver though, silver coloring, usually nickel, those ones I'm saving and put in a little piggy banky.
Yeah, you got to save the silver. That can be the next conspiracy theory if you want.
Hashtag save the silver.
No. The cashless society. We'll mull that over and see if
New World Order, the global currency.
Well, I just wanted to give everyone the update on the vaccines in case no one's paying attention, that people are still working real hard on that, and they are looking at the stimulus to try to get more PPP loans out to keep some of these small businesses that are struggling going. I haven't heard any talk about any more corporate bailouts because fuck that. Anyway, but they are talking about more actual checks to citizens to try to stimulate the economy and keep it limping along. Because I don't know about you, but the economy, as far as like what all has happened in America and the lack of economy and production of GDP here, the market's been pretty optimistic. So that's encouraging.
It is encouraging, and I think we need that final stamp, right? We've got it. We've got a legit vaccine, trialed and tested, double-blind placebo. It's ready to go. Let's get it out. We've got all kinds of distribution channels, I'm sure, that are, again, free market, jumping at the opportunity to be the distribution channels for this too. Different companies that do that. So I think once it's ready to rock and roll, getting it distributed, again, being very optimistic, I think we could probably get it distributed to the majority of Americans within a few weeks. I really think that's feasible. With
Now,
where
do you take it right away? Or do you wait to see if zombies happen and then give it a little bit of time and then take it?
You know what, Bob? I probably go the latter. And,
Right?
and here's why. After doing some research for our guys, we're talking about anti-vaxxers anyways for the conspiracy. But after watching that, I will say, and learning more, I'm still a believer in vaccines, but I'm a little weary on trying something new out of the gate first. So yeah, I might be in the second wave. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was thinking too. Like I'm okay, like personally, as far as like the staying at home. I've been very fortunate and blessed to be in a situation where I can work from home 100% and kind of go in as needed and feel safe still and be pretty well social distance and everything when I have to go in. So I'm not in a huge hurry to wait, but my livelihood doesn't depend on it at this moment. So we will see. I am curious to see if there's any sort of like this is mandatory or what's the incentive for people to take it. I'm very curious to see how that all plays out.
See,
And
that creates a whole other debate, man, because I will say this. I don't believe that vaccines should be mandated. However, if they're not, look what happens when you don't mandate things with mask wearing, with
right.
social distancing. So it's kind of like you can't leave this up to the people. And again, this contradicts some of my beliefs as a person that is a constitutionalist, so to speak. But that's going to be an interesting way how they roll that out. I think most people are going to jump at it. I think most people are fearful enough, but there's, as we both know, and we have friends that are in this realm, there's a sect of people that will just refuse to do it. And I don't necessarily, after doing research, think that's a selfish thing 100%, like people will say. I was like, oh, well, you're going to – no, I think they might be looking out for their family and their loved ones too.
Well,
so it's a
even
fine
if
line.
80% of the people got vaccinated and it worked 100%, right? And there's 20% out there that aren't vaccinated. That greatly reduces the hospital capacity potential, right?
Sure.
And that still like helps everyone out.
Then we literally are in the scenario a year or two down the road where we could have these minor flare-ups like the measles in Disneyland or something like that we can literally, once we realize it, put the kibosh on. Be hey, look, dude, you got coronavirus, man. We have a vaccine for this. Let's fucking go now. You're starting to spread it to other people. We just got over this. Do you remember 2020? Yeah, it was a piece of shit year. Do you want 2020 back? I can see that being a threat to our kids. Hey, do you want to go through 2020 again, you little fuck?
Don't make me put you back in 2020. No, Daddy, no.
I'll do it. I will turn this car right around and go back to 2020 if you want me to. Put that fucking mask on. Stay
That's
in the house.
Be the threat from parents from like 1,000 years in the future when time travel's a thing. They're like, I will put you in 2020. No, Daddy, no. So let's hop right on into it. Scott had mentioned it. We are discussing anti-vaxxers for our conspiracy theory, and I just kind of want to open all this up that the whole anti-vaccination movement starts in pretty much a singular point. And that singular point is the measles, mumps, and rubella combo vaccine.
AKA the MMR shot. Yes. And really, this is all a genesis and just kind of not spitballs, but, kind of like snowballs into this worldwide fucking scare from one gentleman, right? Really from one gentleman and his colleagues, I believe, British, what was his name? A doctor, now discredited doctor. He's accused of doing all kinds of fraudulent things. But Andrew Wakefield, he's actually the director of the movie Vaxxed, or the documentary that we used as a decent piece to understand for this topic of the why is this such a strong, really a strong conspiracy in a lot of people's minds. You know, you're either all the way for it or you're all the way against it, or you're like me, which I'm a little bit in the middle. I'm going to be honest, dude. So it started with, what is it? The Lancet? Is it the Lancet is that what it was?
The report?
Yeah, the Lancet report.
The Lancet, yeah.
And essentially this, I'm not going to make it too complex or anything, but essentially what he kind of concluded is through like this pulmonary kind of like just some kind of situation with the, I can't remember what gland, but basically he was making an association between autism and having this MMR shot at a certain age. And the age that's recommended by the CDC and other World Health Organizations around the clock is that you get this shot for mumps, measles, and rubella at the age of 12 months to 18 months, right? And what he really concluded, just to wrap this up a little bit and not go too far into it, is there seems to be some kind of correlation between this shot given to people at this timing, where very shortly thereafter, there's been a lot of cases, at least enough to warrant further investigation, right? Where they have gotten very sick, fevers, throwing up, and then all of a sudden, once that subsided and kind of broke, they regressed into a pretty hardcore form of autism. And I'm not sitting here talking about people like Rain Man. I'm talking about people banging their fucking heads against the wall, losing the ability to speak. And these are kids that had 50 to 100 word vocabularies, disassociated, like not even being able to look at people, eye contact, stuff like that, forgetting their names and things like this. So he basically said, look, this is not the cause of autism. However, because of these findings that I've discovered with my team, it does warrant further investigation. And I would suggest, until we find out what is really going on, that we go back to the single shot vaccines, meaning that there's no reason to necessarily get these three vaccines in one shot. They used to do it where you had the option to do, you had a rubella vaccine, you had a measles, you had a mumps vaccine. Now, with that being said, a lot of people said why they moved to this is because it limits the amount of mercury in each shot. Now, this also, in my mind, why the fuck is there mercury in these shots?
Which anyways, I don't think they use mercury anymore.
I know, but that's one of the things, right? So I think the single thing, but whatever. So anyways, he publishes this. He's automatically discredited. He's disbarred. He's no longer has any credibility. He can't be a physician in the UK. And then conveniently enough, since he suggested, I think people should go back to having the option of being able to do the single shot vaccines, they were taken off the fucking market. So that way it gave parents, if you're going to get a vaccination for this, you have to get the MMR. Bob, I'll stop there. I'll let you go.
So yeah, before this, that's to fan the flames. That's what I was going to speak on next was when this information came out, the option to have that went away. And basically all he was saying was, I think there's a correlation with the age and time frame that these children are getting this shot, and the 3 shots together. So if we're going to do 3 shots together, perhaps we need to do it at an older age until we have more research, because they say that the numbers significantly drop down if you first get these shots after 9 years old.
Yeah, or even after 3 years old. You know, we're looking at that. I mean, but then you have this narrative and argument too on the other end. It's like, well, that leaves so much more of a window of time for these young children to get these diseases, die, or pass them around and create another epidemic, right?
And I'm just saying that these kids probably don't have to worry about most of that unless they're sent to a daycare, and then maybe a daycare could say that they need them, or before they go to school, because realistically they don't start mingling into the cesspool that is public schools until they're around 5.
Right. And if you're going to preschool, yeah, I had my daughter when she was, close to 2 years old in preschool, because both me and Jamie work full time. So in those scenarios, I could see how it'd be a little bit more pressing. But hey, if you got to, for the safety of your kid, pump the brakes a little bit. Wait till 2 years old. Wait till 3 years old. Because the argument is this, right? The reason why they say that age bracket, the 12 to 18 months, not 100%, obviously. Both you and I have daughters and kids that are fine, and they've gotten the MMR shot. But at the same time, Yeah, seriously, bullet dodge there. But at the same time, you got to just man up and just push it out a little bit if you can, because the idea here is that the toxins, because there is toxins in vaccines, that these young bodies are unable to filter out and basically disposition the toxins, right? So it ends up being detrimental to their health.
Plus, neuro connections are being made in the brain at that time, like no other point in a human's life. Because I read books sometimes, and I read a book about the teenage brain specifically, but this neuroscientist, this doctor, kind of explained the stages of growth and evolution of the brain as we know it. By today's standards versus 20 years ago when we had a lot less information, and there's a lot going on with our neural connections that are being made in our brain development at that time. Like our brains are being bombarded at 1 and 2, and shit is just firing up there. So it's really hard to say what could go wrong, because let's just be honest, we don't know enough about the brain to be positive
We
on
know shit about
anything in these vaccines that might interfere with any of that. So to say that it's perfectly safe is fucking ridiculous, for one thing, because there's no way for us to verify that. But beyond that, there's no harm in waiting a couple of years, because they're not going to enter into a lot of situations with a lot more kids still for several years out, at a year and a half. So, and there's the argument about, well, maybe your kid had autism and you just didn't know it yet because they couldn't really talk right? You would definitely pin that down if your 3-year-old stopped talking.
Yeah. And that's the other argument on the other side of the table too, is like, well, yeah, this happens from, right after they get their vaccines, from 12 to 18 months. Well, unfortunately, what kind of loosens that argument a little bit here is that's usually the age when you can actually diagnose autism in a child.
Right.
You can't do it much younger than that, because they don't have the speech and this and that. They're not walking quite yet, so there's not much to go on. But 12 to 18 months is a very pivotal time in the development of a child's brains, motor functions, you name it. So there's that. Yes, it conveniently that if they get their shot, then all of a sudden they're getting really sick and then they lose all their motor skills. But maybe that's just when autism's effects, where you can see it, kick in. You know what I mean? And actually start. So there's that end of the table too. So it's hard to. There's only one way to solve that, and that's like you were saying. I think the best way to do it is push it out, push it the fuck out, or go to a single shot vaccine again. One or the other. So there's that.
I definitely have a hard time, at least with MMR. So if you want to talk about conspiracy theories and MMR, I'm all ears for that, because I think there's a lot of overwhelming evidence that says MMR should probably be looked into. Even as late as 2000s, when someone is testifying in front of Congress, that's not that long ago for this vaccine that's been around for 30 years, So that I'm all ears. If you want to talk MMR, you want to talk CDC cover-up, you want to talk, billions of dollars moving forward with the sale of the vaccine before there's enough evidence and everything, because people want to make money, I'm all ears on that, and I think there's something to be said about that. Now, the MMR vaccine and everything that circles around that cloud of mystery has led the anti-vaxxer movement into just blindly fucking saying that all vaccines are terrible. And then that's kind of where I need to pump the brakes a little bit and be like, all right, stop.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that smallpox is bad because a private company made an MMR vaccine and signed a contract with the federal government and might have had squirrely results that the government helped them hide. And now you're going to tell me that all vaccines are bad because of one vaccine. So I think that's the real problem with the anti-vaxxer movement for me personally. Go ahead.
I will agree 100%. You can't group together all vaccines. And I think people that look into it a little bit deeper understand this, right? There's a lot of vaccines that have almost zero or none that I know of, no kind of conspiracy, no negative press effects or anything, right? I've never heard anybody complain that the polio vaccine caused something, something negative to happen. This seems to be truly centered around one vaccine, and that's the basically multi-vaccine in one shot, the MMR, right? So even the single dose shots don't have any of this negative press. They don't have any of these, it's all around this. So that is unfortunate too, because then you do have a lot of people pushing the narrative that all vaccines are going to be detrimental. They're all to control people, microchip people, to make people sterile, to make people this and that, whatever it may be. And I have to go ahead and call bullshit on all that, saying that this is the one that warrants further investigation and the one that gives me the biggest question mark, right? I do feel a little uneasy about how this was pushed through. I'll give you for instance. And this kind of just highlights to me how fucking corporations can be when they're money driven, just fucking horrible, evil things. There was, and I'm sure you may have seen this in the documentary, there was a form of the MMR vaccine in Canada in the early 2000s that did directly cause, there's no fucking question or argument or conspiracy behind this. It directly caused meningitis, right? Right away, they took it off the market, got rid of it. You would think, okay, that's gone. Phew, okay, we almost really started something bad. No, what happened is this was moved to another company in Great Britain, and they just changed the fucking name, right? Thinking, whatever.
They reorganized, changed their name, filed a new name, and sold it to some other country.
Yeah, sounds like Zentel, right? But anyway.
There's a handful of you that'll get that.
Yeah. But no, then about 3-4 years into that new name, they have the same thing happen in Great Britain. Of course, Great Britain gets rid of it, but it still doesn't die. Then it gets sent down to third world countries and a lot of South American countries, to where literally it was widely distributed over the entire continent.
Brazil. They went to Brazil.
Yeah. Brazil, South America, where they had a epidemic and a huge outbreak of meningitis. And it's so crazy to me that people are so driven by profit and blindly ignoring facts about how detrimental this vaccine is, that form of it, and yet it continued to fucking ping pong around the world for a long time and fucked up a lot of people's lives. So there's that.
Yeah, and you would think that the company itself would just be like, all right, guys, we're really close, but right now we're causing meningitis. We need to go back to the drawing board and kind of follow a similar thing, but we need to try to keep it from giving people meningitis. And then we got a winner here, right?
Yeah,
we'll make billions selling it to the world. But no, that's not what they did. Instead, they took it and they started, just profiteering off of just a few companies that they can. And then they kept changing the company name and the company structure and reorging so that people wouldn't, they thought they were new a company that came out, most likely, because, obviously you wouldn't do business with a discredited company that's
right.
pushing a bad product. So, but a new company wouldn't know any of the otherwise. So, the whole MMR thing, really put a bad thing on vaccines, because up until that point, vaccines have done amazing things. And one point I want to point out is, like, nothing is foolproof, right? If you go buy a car, their engine probably has a 4% failure rate, right? Meaning that they're satisfied that at 96%, they will profit enough off of the warranty that they have set up, that these cars will have them in the net profit and they'll minimize their losses at 4% acceptance rate. Vaccines are the same way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there may be side effects or whatever, but if the benefits, outweigh the negatives, then you move forward with it. And even with MMR, I believe that the results, even if they were verified, you still have to look at it as a risk-reward thing for humanity, right? How many people will die or have their lives fucked with an epidemic or a pandemic hits versus the risk and intolerance level of failure rates. So there is a little bit of that, a lot of bit of that goes into these medicines and these vaccines when they come out. So I think overall vaccines have done a tremendous service to humanity. Look at our population numbers. I think that'll speak for itself. But
you talked to Bill Gates about that, and our population numbers are going in the wrong direction. Bum, 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 right?
Another conspiracy theory for another week.
It compiles onto this one, though. But you're absolutely right. I mean, the biggest thing here that I thought was, again, glaring in the sense that this deserves special attention is, again, and I don't know, again, I need to see more data. I need to see more facts. I sound like somebody that really is an advocate for healthy journalism, right? To plug our last show. But anyways, when we're watching, we're learning about this, the biggest thing is the apparent CDC cover-up. You know, this is the thing.
Right.
I mean, Dr. Bill Thompson, Dr. William Thompson was the whistleblower allegedly within the CDC. That was a part of the development of this, the part of bringing it to light, the part of basically pushing it towards ultimate legitimacy. And that's putting it in front of the what is it? Something of medicine, like the national, something like, but basically just like saying, hey, this is it. We've got this. This is legit shit. And this guy, conscious or whatever, got to him at the last minute, and he didn't feel comfortable knowing what they had done to kind of fudge the numbers, change things up, make sure this didn't look like it was a potential threat to these kids in these age group, especially African American kids, which I thought was an interesting part of that documentary that they really wanted to cover up. But all this happens, and it seems like all this happens very conveniently to make sure this patented MMR gets put to market and continues to be fucking pushed on everybody and mandated. And who owns this patent? Merck, right? So very interesting that a single, you know, global fucking pharmaceutical company has the rights to this vaccine. And then the leader of the CDC at the time, I can't remember her name, Dr. Jesus Christ, I'm going to say Deborah something Ginsburger or something like that. Anyways, but she ends up, after all this is pushed through and everything, it looks legitimate, she quits as the head of the CDC and becomes like the chief vaccine researcher for Merck. Sure, there's a fuckload more money than that, than working for the CDC. So a lot of this just kind of stinks to high heaven with self-interest, right? And I think that's horrible. If this is true with the MMR, you've got a lot of people here that are going straight to fucking hell because they literally either ignored or tried to cover up statistics that could be highly dangerous for a percentage of people. Again, not 100%. Both you and I have daughters, both had their MMR shots, both are fine. But at the same time, we don't represent the entire American community. We don't represent people in general, and everybody's body chemistries and how they're built is different. So even if in my mind, even if there's a small minority of people, I would take it down to like 1-2%. Maybe it's okay, but it still needs to be transparent that there is maybe a likelihood that this could cause this and this and this, right?
Well,
Which is just not there.
Just to go on the other side of the Lancet report, in 2004, it was partially retracted from the findings from Dr. Wakefield, and then in 2010, it was fully retracted, the Lancet's editor-in-chief said that it described it as utterly false and said the journal had been deceived. You know, Wakefield was found guilty by the General Medical Council of serious professional misconduct in May 2010 and was struck off the medical register, meaning he could no longer practice as a physician in the UK. In 2011, they provided further information on Wakefield's improper research practices to the British Medical Journal. And that is Lancet and the General Medical Council.
Well, and see, that's interesting. Obviously, I haven't done a lot of research on that, but it from my understanding, it's not like Westfield came out and said, or Westlake, excuse me. It's not like he came out and said Wakefield, whatever the fuck, Andrew, right? did I get one part of this?
Andy, friend of the show.
Andy. Him and Fauci go way back. But no, from what I understand, though, I hear that this is discredited. He used false information, false data. But again, from understanding what he actually published, he simply said this could be a thing we need to look further into. He did not come out and publish this causes autism. He said it warrants more investigation. So why he was discredited so much does leave the door open in my mind that these giant conglomerate pharmaceutical companies that are fucking really making the money off this may have seen this and had him silenced. You never know.
And that's the conspiracy theory, right? Mm-hmm. And like where this thing goes awry is the anti-vaxxer movement taking this shroud of mystery instance with MMR and applying it to any and all vaccines. You know, that's kind of, again, that's where I get lost in all of this. And I don't know if I'm too much one, but obviously I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but I do say that the MMR vaccine merits some further investigation.
Absolutely.
If you don't have anything else on that, I think we should get to the stiff truth.
Yes. Sorry, I was sidetracked for a minute. I just got a text message from Home Depot. I thought it was my Traeger grill, but it's just the cover for the grill that's ready for pickup.
Oh, see,
God damn it, son of a bitch!
I'm waiting for my the Death of Journalism book to arrive today. So,
Oh, by the way, I had Jamie watch that interview last night. Stiffies. I did post this on our Facebook page. Jamie actually informed me that I did it the wrong way because I shared it from my page or something like that. I don't know, but anyways, it's up on there. That's a great book. But she loved the interview. In fact, she was telling Elizabeth to be quiet, like while we were watching it. I was like, oh, she's getting into this, and then she's like, hey, can you text me the link to this interview? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. There you go. Enjoy, because that was good shit.
that's
But
a
yeah,
good one. I'm excited for the book.
Yeah, let's jump right into it here because I know, well, I think we're probably right around about an hour and a half right now, which for us is, it's not a lot of time for us to chit chat. But let's get into it, man, because I do want to chat about this. I think it's important. I don't think there's really, is it really a hot topic right now socially? Maybe not, but it kind of cycles in and out, right? So, Bob, take it away. Let them know.
Well, we want to talk about America being the world police. Should we constantly, like, if you for you YouTubers out there, I have a map of Europe, Africa, Asia all pulled up, and little American flags are everywhere for all the bases that we have out abroad over there. So,
And that doesn't mean that just some chick, some broad has all these bases. Don't get it twisted. He means across the globe. So sorry.
So there are a ton out there. I mean, there's probably 25 or something on here. It's a little bit out of hand, and the problem that I'm having with the biggest thing is I'm not exactly a large government kind of a guy in general.
Bob,
right?
no shit. Get right out of town.
So for us to be having these military presence everywhere, it seems a little odd to me as far as cost. Right, and effectiveness. Couldn't we, offer training and support for our allies or whatever, and be just as effective? Or I know a lot of these countries, especially in Eastern Europe, have missile defense systems that we've given them as part of the anti-Russian agenda, because they will invade countries. We know that for sure. But it's about the fiscal responsibility, I think, is the biggest part for me. Now, I will caveat all of this by I do not have the security briefings. I cannot tell you if all of these bases and the strategy involved is because of national security reasons. It's because of national security reasons for our closest allies. Very possible. And very possible that we just kind of strategically put bases all around so that we can quickly react to China and Russia.
Now, with that being said, I just did a little fact checking here and research here. We have military bases in over 150 countries, and there's over 1,000 facilities. 1,000.
Seems like a bit much for me.
Seems like a little bit of global overreach, if you ask me, my friend. It seems like we're sticking our nose into business that doesn't need to be our business at all. But no, you're absolutely right, Bob. There's definitely the argument that, like, hey, we're doing this proactively to protect ourselves from potential foes, right? People that can harm the U.S., people that want the U.S. to be harmed. But honestly, why do we need a military base in Ireland? Why do we need a military base in Spain? Why do we need a military base in Sudan? Why do we need I could go on. And I'm sure somebody would have some kind of rebuttal to that, but I call bullshit on it. And like you said, the fiscal responsibility is what kills me. We pump so much fucking money, mind you, that we don't have into the military. And I want to say a small percentage stays stateside, right? It goes to these facilities and to these troops because the troops do need the money, right? But it goes to all these other military bases across the globe.
The personnel costs are negligible compared to the infrastructure costs.
Absolutely. So the infrastructure, the weaponry, right? The vehicles, all the stuff that they think they need, of course, because they're there. This creates something in my mind to where we're not only spending a shitload of money that we don't have, and we already know my feelings about that. I think we're on the same page there. We can't just keep printing money. that has so much detriment to the American dollar and the value in our economy and moving forward and our debt and all this shit. But at the end of the day, too, we're also putting a lot of good American soldiers in harm's way when, in my mind, they don't need to fucking be there at all. So my thing is this, and Bob, you may agree with me too. Do you think, and I think this is kind of a stupid question here, do you think we have enough problems in the United States that we should probably just focus on our country for a little bit and not worry about others?
Absolutely. I think that we need to wrangle in our out of control spending. Um, I definitely think that it's time for an evaluation for how we're doing business in the military abroad, because it just seems a bit excessive to me. And I know that those billions of dollars, billions and billions of dollars, tens of billions of dollars for
Yeah,
all these.
it's bigly, it's huge.
Yeah, definitely. We could use that here or for problems here. And I think bringing all these places, bringing all these soldiers back home, it would be huge for their families, and still have them here, still have them ready to go, still have them ready to deploy, still have them doing, military drills and war games and all that here, and keep them ready here. There's no reason, I just don't see it, to have them spread out so far across the country. Now, we've got a couple of veteran friends. They may chime in and say, you guys are idiots. This is why, because we don't have all the facts. But from just a fiscal responsibility of everything, and then looking at all the problems we have here and looking how we're constantly working in the red in America, seems like we need to try to wrangle in that spending. Again, kind of circling back, we have agencies here, entire agencies that are billions of dollars that it's questionable whether they even need to exist. We spend billions of dollars on a lot of these installations across the world, and it's questionable whether they need to exist.
Yeah. Hey, military bases. Hey, IRS, DEA, ATF. What would you say you do here? Right? Like literally, that's the scenario. But you're absolutely right. Here's the other thing too. Let's talk about financials more, even more, because if you think about all these American troops that are deployed all over the world, and I'll say this. Let's be feasible here and let's be practical. I would probably slash about 75% of the military bases. 25%, I would get the arguments enough why we need to be there.
Or maybe make some of the ones that would need to be there bigger and better, and take some of the other ones that probably don't need to be there just away, like the Ireland base.
Yeah, seriously. An Ireland base, a UK base, we don't need presence there unless it's warranted, meaning we don't need to send people over there unless we feel we need to be there to protect our own. Right now, there's nothing going on there that would give us the inclination that we need to fucking be there. So pull it back. But yes, outside of China, in and around North Korea, maybe keeping a little eye on Russia. I get it. But outside of a few select countries in some places in the Middle East, we really don't need any presence there until warranted, right? So what we do is we bring back hundreds of thousands of soldiers stateside. Now, not only would that be really good for their families and them, but let's look economically. When they're spending their money, where are they spending it now? Not in fucking Vietnam, not in fucking Ireland. They're spending it, and they're generating GDP, and they're stimulating our economy with their disposable incomes as well. So that's another huge benefit that I don't think even people think about. And let's just take this back to the last episode, Bob. If we eliminate all these military bases that really we could deem unnecessary, bring a bunch of Americans back to stimulate the economy and be with their families, what does that free up? That frees up easily the $30 billion that we would need to subsidize journalism. Boom, done. Handled.
It's interesting. I was just looking it up, and our overseas military presence is actually some of the lowest it's been. So even as high as it is, this is the lowest it's been.
Which is fucking that completely blows my mind.
But
right?
We also don't have World War II going, Korea, Vietnam. So those skew the numbers drastically.
Yeah, of course. We haven't had a global war, because I'm gonna sit here and we had the Iraqi war and everything too. It was Desert Storm. We had part 2 of that, but yeah, I think that's even been over for a while too. Let's just face it, we still have a lot of presence there, and I don't even know if that's a positive now. I think a lot of these countries don't want us even to be there where there's a lot of turmoil. We've done more harm than good in a lot of respects. Now, yeah, I understand why we can't just you know, especially when we do have a war somewhere, we can't just pull out like 100% right out of the gate, because that kind of leaves things open for overthrowing governments, certain factions that take over, whatever. But there's a certain aspect of me where it gets to the point where, why is it still our problem? Why is a lot of this our problem? And again, we have plenty of things, especially in today's climate, plenty of things that are wrong with our country, where our resources, our revenues need to be pumped into programs and just in general into American society before we start reaching out and thinking we can solve the world's problems. You know what I mean? It's like, I want to say it's like a drug addict trying to help a drug addict that's still addicted to drugs. You know what I mean? It's not going to work. You got to take care of yourself, get yourself correct before you go out there and try to correct anybody else. It's the same kind of thought process.
Yeah, we don't work that way in America.
No,
we pretend
don't.
we don't have any domestic problems and
Sure.
still go try to fix other people's domestic problems. That's how we do it.
And I hate to say it, man. Let's face it here. Again, I think it really boils down, and I can use Vietnam or definitely Desert Storm and stuff like that as examples. Usually these aren't a morality, ethical kind of thing. It's all boiling down to profit, especially in the Middle East. You know what I mean? Like, we wouldn't feel like fucking so many people need America over in the Middle East if they didn't have so much goddamn oil. So there's that.
So bottom line, me and Scott don't agree. There may be some sort of reason that we're completely omitting here or overlooking here, but
this is the stiff truth.
Yeah,
this is how we see
an
it.
instance where smaller government is better, and I think by us getting rid of some of these unnecessary bases actually improves our stance and how the world views us, because they already see us as holier than thou do-gooders that try to meddle while we can't handle our shit.
And honestly, I would like to see what happens in other countries if we withdraw completely. Like, hey, you guys don't want us here? You think we're fucking pompous fucking pieces of shit Westerners? Great, we're gone. And then leave them to their own devices. Some may surprise us. Some may go into fucking civil war right out of the gate. But you know what? We got things to worry about here. And if the rest of the world collapse while we're worrying about our country, I'm okay with that, honestly.
Well, we definitely not so much isolationist viewpoints, but I will tell you, as far as a military standpoint, I definitely think that we have a lot of overreach, and it could use some evaluation and see if that needs to be wrangled back in.
Yeah.
So the stiff truth is, no, we should not be the world police.
We should 100% not be the world police. We need to care about ours first, make sure that's dialed in. And then if we want to help other people out of the goodness of our hearts, because there's no problems going on here in the United States, God bless you.
Or wait for it, if they ask for help.
That would be ideal, wouldn't it? Right? Instead of just imposing and assuming, no, you need some America right now. And it's like, no, we really don't want
You know what your country needs in Spain? Some America.
Like, no, I think we're doing okay. No. You're just silly, and you're a foreigner, so you don't really know what's going
you're
on.
A foreigner. We're in your country, and you're still a foreigner. That's an American view right there.
That is
awesome.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. I think we're about out of time, buddy.
I think so too.
Yeah.
So, what a good show.
I had a fun time. I always do, though, Bob. Like you had said before, this is our best, and it feels good to always be our best every single week. You know what I mean?
Every single week. It's better than the week before. So, but I've been out of Harvey Wallbanger for a cool minute. I mean, I've been like reduced to drinking, bottled water. I'm going to have to figure that out.
I made 2 Wallbangers, so I'm just finishing up my second one.
I want to thank everyone for their time. Especially you out there, our lone French listener. I know you'll probably grab this soon. Sacre bleu! You listen every week.
Please keep listening, and we'll continue to make fun of French people too. But no, he's totally right.
Yes, and tell your friends, and that goes to all you guys. Tell your friends. We may offend you guys with some of the things that we say and some of our viewpoints, but in the end, we are probably in the majority on being right. So, and if you don't believe that, there's other shows.
You can always, I'm sure this is great way to market, but you can always change the fucking channel if you don't like what we're saying, right? But no, at the end of the day, this was a really fun one again, Bob. It's I'm just having more and more fun with the show. I think not only are we growing and flourishing as bartenders of ourselves, but also here's the thing too, Stiffies. If you do, and I'll say this, I think me and Bob was going to say this every fucking episode, but if you guys have a different opinion and think we're totally full of shit, let us know.
Call us out.
We are
like that.
We are the type of people that, given other opposing information, if it has validity and facts behind it, we may reconsider our position on things. We're simply giving you our viewpoints after we do our own independent research and our feelings about things. However, we both are humble enough and understand that we don't know everything, and we're open to debate. That's really something I think everybody in America and globally, but especially in America, we need to remember. Debate is healthy. Debate is healthy, guys. So if you disagree, let us know. Comment on the YouTube videos. Give me a fucking call on my cell. I'll leave that in the YouTube fucking comments. It's going to blow up.
I'll record you without you knowing and play it on the show. No big deal. no big deal. I do want to go ahead and let you guys know that we want you to join us next week in our stiff drink.
Yep.
So we did discuss this earlier for what next week's stiff drink would be. And I already forgot. So, Scott, what was next week's stiff drink?
We're going to be doing Singapore slings.
That's right.
I was on the patio section.
With a side of mezcal.
Yeah, we were on the patio section, of course, drinking Singapore slings with mezcal on the side. Any stiffy that can tell me where that's from, you in a T-shirt. Sorry, Bob.
Oh, snap. Sorry, Bob. So thanks for listening, guys. I appreciate your time. We love you all. Like and subscribe, comment, get involved with the show. You guys do have a voice on this show, so exercise that voice. And I am Bob West. I'm here with Scott Casanova, and we will see you next week.
Love you all. Take care.